Welcome. I'm Vanessa, and this is my special guest, Kecia Clarke. She was featured on the reality TV show that you may have seen called Addicted to Marriage. She's also a family law lawyer with a very successful career and a very interesting backstory, which ties all together. So I'm excited to have you on, Kecia. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for having me. I'm looking forward to the interview.
So as I was saying earlier, I love your background. I just can't get over how good it looks. And, I was going to ask later in the interview, but I'm just going to ask now, do you have a house manager to manage all the toilets in the house that have plumbing issues? Because that's the first thing I think, how do you manage that much square footage?
So my husband and I, we are the house managers. He's very hands-on. We have workers at our disposal. So we handle it ourselves. So we co-manage and then we delegate out to day workers to help us because this is a heavy hitter.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that seems like a full-time job because I have a little bit of a background in real estate. I took real estate classes, had a license, and everything is inactive now. And I've dealt with smaller properties that are just full of issues, and I can't imagine. It can be just, all day, every day, one thing after another. So.
Exactly. I'm having my roof repaired right now as we speak.
Okay. All right. So how did you find out about Addicted to Marriage? What led you to even knowing this was going to be a show that existed? Because I haven't heard of it before until I stumbled upon it, and then I ended up watching the entire thing. Okay. So how did you find out about it?
Okay, so that was not the name of the show was not Addicted to Marriage. That show was changed after we had finished completing the entire season of filming. Initially, Vanessa, the name of the show was called Maybe This Time, as in maybe this time it'll work, your relationship. So it was cute. I did not sign on for a show called Addicted to Marriage, not saying that I would not have, but that name was changed after it was in post-production. They came to me, Vanessa, because of my social media presence. I have a webinar where I tell my story. They knew I was married multiple times, and I obviously came out of it successful, and I help other women do it. So their show was premised on those that believe in love, still believe in marriage, and are willing to get married again. But what they didn't know when they came to me was that I was also engaged. So I fit the bill exactly. I'm ready to get married again. I had been divorced multiple times. And they came onto my social media, and TLC called me, and they said that they would be interested, and would my fiance be interested? And I knew that was the easy thing because my fiance thinks he's Will Smith anyway. So he decided to do the show.
Okay, so I didn't know that reality TV shows producers went and recruited people. I always thought, because I'd heard there's another reality TV show where one of the main characters was saying that they'd seen an ad put out and they responded to the ad, and they, and then I see even with some of these shows like The Bachelor, which I don't watch that show anymore, haven't for years, but I know historically people go to extreme lengths to try to get on reality TV shows, putting out casting videos, their actors and all this stuff. And so I had no idea that people even recruited for that.
Yeah. They do. One of the new things that they do, the casting directors, they scroll through social media looking for stars for these reality shows. They're very hyperactive and proactive in searching social media. Now, they may have an ad on their own social media saying we're looking for cast members of this show or that show. That was never the case with this show. They actually scour social media for all the cast members.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you're not in Atlanta, but when I first saw you on the show, and I don't watch The Housewives of Atlanta, but you I could see you on that show, you know what I mean, with the opening scene. You look like you belong on Housewives of Atlanta. Have you ever thought about being on a housewife show? Because I mean, they don't all it's weird they call it housewives because these women all seem to be working. You know what I mean?
And most of them are not married.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I don't watch the shows, but I've seen clips.
Right. So no, would I consider that? I would consider being on The Housewife of New Jersey. In fact, we're the same film crew. The production company, ITV America, is the same production company for The Housewives of New Jersey. And I live in the town with two of the other housewives. I'm saying other as I'm already a part of it, but I live in the same town as two of the housewives from New Jersey, and I see them around frequently. So I would entertain that, but I can tell you what, I'm not going to sully my reputation by throwing glasses at people and arguing and stuff like that. So I don't know whether that would be a good fit for my brand, but I would certainly consider it. I thoroughly enjoyed taping Addicted to Marriage. It was a nice experience.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. So a lot of people don't. Like after it's over with, they complain constantly about how they were portrayed and the way they were edited and stuff like that. And it's funny you mentioned the Housewives of New Jersey, and I'm glad that you won't trash your reputation because a lot of people will do anything to get and stay on these reality TV shows.
Right.
But it's wild to me that it's the same film crew and that you're in the same area that you see these people.
Yes.
I mean, that's just wild to me. Okay, so my next question is basically, and this is not judgmental at all because I've said it before, with my current company I'm very pro-divorce. And what I mean by that is I don't believe that people should stay in marriages miserable, unhappy, just suffering and then ending up on one of those like snapped reality TV shows with true crime because they, like things really blew up, went terribly wrong. But so my next question is, how did you muster the courage to go through your first divorce or any subsequent divorces? Because that's really hard for a lot of people to leave any relationship that's committed, even boyfriend, girlfriend, because of the, emotional attachment or, with divorce, the paperwork involved and there's just a lot to that, that. So how did you know, okay, I'm leaving and nothing's going to hold me back?
Okay, so I will say this, Vanessa. I would say that my first divorce was easy breezy. I was the one that had all the money. I married my high school sweetheart.
Okay.
It was easy. There was no paperwork. There was no assets. There was nothing. We got divorced. It wasn't a lot of paperwork. It was 1, 2, 3. My same thing with my second and third marriages my second marriage. It was over after 9 months. But my third marriage, you know what? When you marry someone and shortly after you find out that they're not the person that that you thought they were, and rather stay and complain and be miserable, like you said, I felt there was not enough in there. We didn't own a home, we didn't have anything like that, and it was very easy. No paperwork. We were divorced within, like I said, a matter of months. We were together for 9 months. We were divorced literally 6 weeks after the 9 months. That was easy breezy, and it was an annulment, basically, like it never ever occurred. But the third marriage, Vanessa, that was the one that I tell women. That was the hardest because I had to make the decision. I was married to a successful doctor. I'm a lawyer. We had massive assets, children, boats, expensive artwork. It was a difficult divorce, but it was a decision that I had to make because I was miserable. And there was nothing. There was no financial problems. There was no infidelity. There was no domestic violence. It was just two people that fell out of love after being together for 16 years. And it happened. It happens. And a lot of women, because there's no infidelity, because there's no domestic violence, because there's no financial problems, they think that it's okay to stay and they just live their life sort of blindfolded, but yet they are miserable because they're settling for less than they want. Everybody wants to be in love, or they just want to be happily single. When you start a relationship with somebody that's not fulfilling you, you're not really happy. When you get in your car to go to work, you are sad because you know that when you get home, your life is not what it be. Maybe you're not speaking. Maybe you haven't been intimate with your husband in a matter of months or even years. That's not a life any of us want. So I encourage women, leave that unhappy relationship. Stop telling yourself lies. When I ask you how you and your husband and you say fine, I know you're not telling the truth. You know you're not telling the truth. So in my courses, I say, tell me your favorite lie. And women, all of a sudden, they know that they've been lying to themselves and to their friends how happy they are when they know they're miserable. So I wouldn't say I'm pro-divorce, I'm pro-happiness.
Yeah. It sounds bad saying that phrase, but I say it because of the thing of people. I don't think people should have to be miserable and stay in forever. And there's a lot of examples of that, because of the stigma around divorce still yet. And the complications, depending on what state you're in, some of these states, it's really hard to get a divorce.
Yes, it is.
The state I'm in right now, you have to basically be at a separate physical address for a minimum of 6 months before you can even try to move forward with an actual divorce. And that's not practical for a lot of people. It poses a lot of problems.
Yes, it does.
So that's just one of countless examples. I was in another state just recently, and if you had children, you have to be separated. I don't know how you prove it, for 1 year minimum before you can move forward. I mean, it's just like, Jesus.
Right. So in New Jersey, what they do is either 18-month separation, but a separation, Vanessa, in New Jersey could be living under the same roof but sleeping in separate bedrooms, because it's sort of impractical to believe that two people can all of a sudden pay for two households than one. So separation could be under the same roof, you're in the guest room or on the floor in the basement, and I'm in the house. And also, New Jersey also lets you do mental cruelty, and mental cruelty is like, oh my God, he cursed at me all the time, and you can get divorced. So there's really no rule in New Jersey. New Jersey makes it relatively easy to get divorced.
Yeah, Florida's even easier. They don't make you do any of that. That's my favorite state. That's where I'm from. I'm a resident of Florida since I was 3 years old. So,
okay.
Yeah, I like Florida's divorce laws better than these other states. Right. A little faster. You can get divorced as little as 30 days, potentially.
Right. Wow. That's quick.
Which most people can't get their paperwork together that fast. So,
no.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your views on modern day marriage and divorce in America? Because it's evolving for sure. And these laws will keep evolving. You're a family law lawyer. So I'm sure, when you do your continuing education, you're constantly abreast of all these changes. Absolutely. So what do you think about that moving forward?
Well, so there's a couple of things. There's no longer permanent alimony. Used to be a time when women and men got married in their 20s and women were housewives, legitimately housewives, not working, caring for the home and the children. And because of this, they had no skills. And the law allowed them, if they were married for 10, 15 years, to get a lifetime alimony, permanent alimony, because they hadn't done anything. Today, as of 2017, there is no such thing in New Jersey as permanent alimony. You can get alimony up to the amount of years that you were married, or rehabilitative alimony, because if you're in your 40s and you've been married for 20 years, you may get 15 years of alimony, but they expect you to be able to get out there and get a job. And I see that as a good thing. One of the new things is that alimony is now no longer taxable. Right. So when I got divorced, I have to pay taxes on my alimony. If you get married, if you get divorced today, your alimony is yours. It is not taxable, nor is it deductible for the person paying the alimony. I wish that was the case when I got divorced in 2015. But what that does is it reduces the amount of alimony, because if you're not going to pay taxes on it, then why should you get this amount of alimony? We'll bring it down since there's no taxes. So there's a lot of nuances, but I will tell you, the divorce rate since the pandemic of 2020, domestic violence and divorce rates have increased 41% because people have figured out that they hate their spouse.
Okay.
You have to be quarantined and live in a home where everybody's home. The kids, everybody's homeschooling, and everybody's getting riled up. Everybody's getting tense. Domestic violence raised up. Even child abuse increased tenfold during the pandemic. And that's why I'm so glad that everything's opening up. But divorce rates, I can tell you right now, I acquired 12 new clients for divorce in the last 2 years because of the pandemic. Because people that were cheating prior to the pandemic remain cheating, and then the wife didn't want them back in the house, or the husband didn't want them back in the house because they were afraid of getting COVID. So a lot of interesting things have occurred because of the pandemic. And honestly, I think some laws are going to change because of it.
What kind of laws do you think will change because of it?
I think that they're going to reduce the amount of time that you have to be separated, because people cannot live in the same house for 18 months. They're killing each other. It's like War of the Roses. I think shorten that. It's just unfair to make people live together when they cannot stand each other. And what happens is they start getting restraining orders. So now people are getting forced out of their house, and the courts are being overwhelmed with restraining orders because you're forcing these people to live together in a society now with the pandemic that they couldn't get out of the house. So they're going to be shortening that separation period.
Yeah, I know in Florida that they have seen a major boom in divorces post-COVID and whatnot, and that's continuing onward and stuff like that. And I know family mediation kind of diverts a lot of them from going fully into the courts before judges and getting it resolved. But it's a long, windy road. And even though you can get divorced faster in Florida, like, it still drags out for sometimes many months, if not years, for people, because there's just a lot to sort out between people, and it's complicated for people. A lot of times, this may be a lot of times they're only divorced. So back to you. So I was very curious when I was watching the show. You were actually, believe it or not, the only person on that show that kept me watching the whole season. My husband and I, we watch trash reality TV shows together, and this one hit our radar, and he immediately pulled it up on the Discovery app, and he's like, "Oh, there's a new one. This will be interesting to you." And so we pulled it up, and we like binge watched this really fast. And the only reason I was only interested really in your segments as it went along, because I found you to be such a fascinating and relatable character to me, because, you know, you have this backstory where you've been married and divorced multiple times, but then you also, where it becomes very interesting to me, is you went to law school, and you, no offense or anything, are kind of like a unicorn to me, because you're a woman of color that became a lawyer, and that is a rare in America overall if you look at, you know, the numbers in the landscape.
Right.
That's just not common at all. It's mostly Caucasian males historically, and I still see that. And I see that a lot in private practice, particularly that are working with the public in non-governmental roles. In the government, I think the landscape's a little different with lawyers, but in private practice, I notice it's not that way. And so for, you know, people like myself, quite frankly, women of color, you know, finding someone like yourself out there to represent us, I mean, good luck to you in all these different areas of law, to include family law. And so how did you end up in law school? How did you select the law school? Like, was it because of your divorces and marriages that you decided this was a good idea and you'd be good at it? Like, what happened there?
Oh my goodness, Vanessa. My mother is a lawyer and a retired judge of 18 years. So I grew up with all of my mother's law school friends at the house. I was a lawyer. All of my friends would have questions for me from their parents. And I just was a lawyer when I was 11. And I would just give them the legal advice from listening to my mom and all her friends. So as I continue to practice law today, most of the people that it was weird. A lot of my adversaries are my mom's contemporaries. You know, my mom's living the life of Riley, but she has friends that are still working as lawyers and stuff. So I didn't have a choice. In fact, I got to tell you, I owned my own salon prior to going to law school. And my mom came to me and said, "I will give you $10,000 if you go to law school."
Wow. Okay.
Said, okay. So I took LSATs. The next thing you know, I'm getting into law school. I'm like, oh my God. But she gave me the $10,000. Going to law school was the best thing I could have ever done. Not because I love being a lawyer, Vanessa, but because of what it has allowed me to do. I inspire women all over the globe because I've been a divorce lawyer for over 25 years. And I see that women do not bounce back the way men do. When men get a divorce, when men come to me for a divorce, they're already in another relationship. They're already got their luggage in the car because they're on their way to Aruba with their girlfriend. Seriously, we get stuck with the children. We get stuck with still having to go to PTA meetings, still having to find a babysitter, still having to do our 9 to 5, still having to cook dinner. We are bogged down, and mentally it is draining for us. So because of that, I noticed a lot of my women clients kept reaching out to me post-divorce because they liked what I did for them during the divorce, because I was more than just a lawyer. I became a counselor. You can do this. We're going to be fine. I'm holding your hand. And that is why I'm glad that I went to law school, because I'm now serving women in a capacity that I love, and I'm giving value to all these women, and it makes me feel good. I like to do that more than I like to practice law.
Yeah. Well, I've been to law conferences. I've been around the legal industry quite a lot. And I've learned a lot that basically the practice of law seems to really wear on most people of all demographics. There's something about it that really drains people over the years. And there's some personalities that thrive on it, and they feed off of it, and they never are drained. But I think they're the minority, not the majority, especially when you're talking about private practice. I think probably maybe the interactions with all the different personality types of the clients may have something to do with it as well. But yeah, I mean, I've been to law conferences. They have, it seems like in every law conference, just about a segment on like mental wellness and substance abuse and anger management, because it's such a problem in the profession.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Being a divorce lawyer is probably, when I tell people that I do family law, they're like, oh my God. And I'm going to tell you, I, I get phone calls 11 o'clock at night that, oh, she didn't drop off the baby at the precinct. She's 5 minutes late. What do I do now? Oh my God, she's stalking. She's parked in front of my driveway. She was supposed to meet me here. It's so much that you end up like, I hate to say this, but you end up disliking your clients because they are now treating you not as a lawyer, but as this confidant or this person that it's not, I don't even know what it is. It's a confidant or person they think they can call for every minute thing going on in their life. It doesn't matter that you're billing them. They don't care. They'll pay it, but they want you to be at their disposal 24/7. And if you don't tell them, do not call me after 6 o'clock, they're going to continue to call you at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. My husband sometimes like, this is ridiculous. You have to tell them to stop calling you. So it's tough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're still representing clients actively in family law currently.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, okay. Yeah, so what you just mentioned is why I think that lawyers need to get in the habit. And I've learned that judges and lawyers typically aren't very plugged in with mental health and mental health resources. I think it would behoove lawyers to have a list in their area of all the mental health clinicians and emergency resources and get them plugged in with a mental health counselor, because there isn't a distinction in the minds of many clients between a lawyer and a mental health counselor. And there's a huge difference there. It's a totally different skill set. The lawyers there navigate the law and the court system in, number of cases like what you're doing. And then the mental health counselor is to deal with all of the emotional stuff and the fallout,
Absolutely.
and that's the problem, the overlap, because it is wild to be having someone and behaving that way, treating your lawyer that way.
Vanessa, you hit it on the head because interestingly enough, I have a program called the Girlfriend's Divorce Concierge, which means I have a team. So
Okay.
not only do I have mental health experts, but I have a certified sex therapist on my team, and I have an image consultant, and I have a certified financial planner. So women that join that program have access to all these things because I need them to level up. I need them to get their mind right first. And if they need to go through my counseling, they can. But a lot of them say, no, we love you, Kecia. We love everything that you're doing. We don't want to go that route. But some women do want to go that route because there's some other issues going on other than the fact of just getting divorced. There might be other issues where they really do need, counseling from a licensed clinical social worker. And I do refer them to those people, but a lot of them just like what I do. But I have a whole team to help them level up and get everything they need to come out of this divorce unscathed, happy. And that's what I strive for all of them.
So can that be found at your website, KeciaClarke.com?
Absolutely. The Girlfriend's Divorce Concierge, that's what I do. And Vanessa, that's different than me being a lawyer. So when you come to me as a divorce concierge, most of those women already have a lawyer, or they're contemplating divorce, or they're already divorced. And they can't seem to get their happy back. So I am, of course, my fees are less, but now I'm guiding them as a divorce concierge. So helping them change their image. I'm like, what are your goals? What do you want in 1 year? What do you want in 3 years? And I help them get it. And I stay with them the whole way. You have a 3-year plan? I'm with you for 3 years. You have a 1-year plan? I'm with you for 1 year.
That's cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, people do need, I think that most people going through divorce, no matter what phase of life they're in, need more than just the paperwork handled. And that's why they're behaving in the way that they're behaving, is because there's a lot of unmet needs there that are popping out.
Right.
So for those of you listening on the podcast that can't see the video, the spelling of KeciaClarke.com is KeciaClarke.com. And it'll also be in the show notes in the description below. Okay, if you're on Twitter, though, all you'll see is a title, so you'll have to hop on one of the other platforms. All right, so you mentioned several things. Certified sex therapist, is that for sex addiction or sexual functioning?
No, my certified sex therapist, she's She is amazing. There are women that are getting divorced, Vanessa, that maybe haven't been intimate with their husband for years. I mean, most of my divorce clients haven't had sex in over 3 to 5 years with their husbands. Their husbands have probably been having sex with others, but they have not done this. So it's a way to get their mojo.
That's so depressing.
I know it is, but you know what? But it's facts, and it's unfortunate. It's facts. You know, I have a couple of clients that whose husbands may have medications that are keeping them from being able to perform, but they don't feel like husbands anymore anyway, so they're not doing it. But my certified sex therapist, what she does, helps you get your mojo back. So you might be into something that you may be afraid to tell your spouse, that's something that you like sexually, and now we're going to make you not be afraid or ashamed of things that you may like, and to be able to know your body, what makes you feel good. I mean, we are hands-on, literally. We have toys, we have classes. They learn how to figure out what feels good to them in their body, and basically not to be afraid of some of the things that they may like that they have not indulged in because they were so afraid. So we lift you up. We get you ready to be with a new partner. You would not believe beautiful young women that are getting divorced in their 40s have only been with 1 or 2 people, and they're so afraid to be with somebody else. So part of getting your happy back is being able to get out there, know that you are sexy, be confident enough that you're worthy of someone loving you and being intimate with you and falling in love with you. And a lot of women lack that self-worth. So we help them, and you won't believe they love my sex therapist because she brings out your, I want to say, your inner Sasha, things that every woman has that we might, walk around and in our mind we're thinking, wow, I wish I could do that. You see something happening in a movie, wow, I wish we could do that. We let them know it's okay to want those things, and we strive to have them get out there and just, get their mojo back and be happy sexually in who they are.
So you also mentioned an image consultant, and I was thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just thinking about how that would be used in the modern day world, post-divorce. So would an image consultant help these individuals with things like a LinkedIn profile and how you present there? Because that's obviously, I found you through obviously I found you through Addicted to Marriage, but then I also the reality TV show, but then I looked up your website, and then I found you through LinkedIn, and you have a very good online image. It's just a fact, you present very well. And then also online dating is a whole different world. Before I got married, I did meet my spouse online, but it wasn't like today at all. Now you have the apps, which is kind of cool because there's more access to people is the pro of it. I know there's a lot of cons, don't eat me alive in the comments section, but the pros is that there's more access to people than ever before to get out there and meet people. Whereas back in my day, I feel like a dinosaur before I got married. I mean, I was relegated to the local population, which was whatever minimal stuff online. I remember, you're not going to believe this. This is like an embarrassing fun fact about me, but I'm not going to say the name of it either. But there was a dating site online. I was 19 years old. So that was 17 years ago now. And I took this ridiculous online inventory about self-assessment to match you, to do your dating profile. And they told me I was unmatchable after I did that. I did it for 45 minutes. Wait, I was unmatchable. I was 19 years old. How do you say 19-year-old? The girl that you're unmatchable. Huh?
That's horrible.
I mean, unmatchable. But I matched myself just fine. It's fine. But, the options were pretty slim back then. So does the image consultants help with LinkedIn profiles and with these dating apps? Because the dating apps, I'm sure, are a science of putting it together so you get the right match.
Yes. Okay. It's funny you should say that. We just met my team with a whiteboard, and under the image consulting, one of the things we have is dating app concierge, because we write, listen, the more specific, Vanessa, your profile is, the more likely you are going to get matched with someone that you should be matched for. You know how they ask you, what are your no-brainers? Like, if you smoke, I don't want it. Sometimes a smoker will come through. You're like, how did a smoker make it through that filter? And that's because you're not you can't say, oh, I love to travel. Where do you like to travel to? Do you want to be with somebody who just likes to go to Florida, or do you want to be with somebody who likes to go to Europe? So where do you not only do your dating app, We do your LinkedIn, we do your social media profile, we go shopping with you, we dye your hair, we cut your all of these things. We do the whole kit and caboodle. If you're running around looking like a soccer mom every day because you have 2 kids and you're working so hard, we get your hair done. We find you a hairstylist. We have people come to your home. You know, we make it very easy. We have people like those things. The next thing you know, the dating profile, we set that up. I mean, the profile should be so succinct and so detailed. You know, to give you a little space, it should really be more than that. And you should put as many pictures. We put 17 to 25 pictures on our, well, my lovelies, on our lovely profile. And we select they give us pictures and we select the pictures for them.
Wow.
You know?
So how has that been working out with the dating apps? I'm very curious about this. Like, how is that going for everybody?
Okay. Vanessa, 100% of the women that go on these dating apps. So let's say we have maybe 25 women that are currently in the Girlfriend's Divorce Concierge, that are currently in part of the program. I would say 80% of them are on the dating apps, and 80% of them are having a ball, and they are delighted. They've been on dates, they're happy, they're not meeting the people that are coming through the filter that are like, why would this come through to me? They're meeting people, and all of them say it's because of how we wrote the profile for them.
Yeah. There was a TV show on like for a minute. It was very brief. I think it got canceled right away, but it was different from what you're talking about, but they were basically had these horrendous dating app profiles that people had put up. And then they kind of like remade them. You can imagine what that looks like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like just the most kind of super unprofessional,
right?
You know, one that you could possibly put out there to get the worst kind of, you know, response. That's what they were showing. And then they were kind of making it over. And a lot of it to me is like kind of like common sense stuff, because I don't know, I dabble in a lot of things. I know a lot about marketing, and I really feel like in life, a lot of things come down to marketing. And the dating app profiles aren't much different. It's about, you know, presentation of information,
right?
You know, and target marketing. So anyways, that sounds like a great service. And
it is.
A lot of people need.
It is. And you know what, Vanessa, just one more point on that. We also select the dating sites for them. There are some that we do not use at all. Because no matter what, you're going to get what I call the people that you don't want to getting filtered in. So there's 5 dating sites that we use. I don't want to say the name, but there's 5 that we use that are the best, and that's what we do. Yeah, that's important.
I could imagine, because now there's so many. You know, back before I got married, there was like, I want to say, I think there was just 2 that I can remember. There was just 2, and now, I mean, how many are there out there, you think?
Right. But only a few of them verify their members. So we only use sites that the members are verified. If you're on a certain website, they have to verify their income. So
really?
Right. Yeah. We only
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, we only deal with top-notch sites, so everything is verified. So you can't lie on say you're a millionaire or you're a 6-figure earner when you're not. Everything is verified by the site. So we only use those sites.
Okay. I did not know that was a thing. I didn't even know they had a site like that. So
yeah, we do.
Yeah. I'm obviously not up on this at all. Okay. So some of the final questions I have about you are, you know, as far as your practice of law is concerned, do you go, I mean, I'm assuming you take your cases to family mediation, because not everyone's just going to agree on everything out the gate and not need mediation. And like, what would you say, you know, approximately your percentage of cases that you take to mediation settle there versus the ones that have to go to trial? And then are there any that go into appeals?
0% of my cases settle at mediation.
0?
0.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, 0. And I'm going to tell you why. Lots of people that are getting divorced these days, they are very bitter, and they're fighting for all the wrong things. You shouldn't spend $10,000 to fight for a $400 table that your great aunt gave you before she passed away. And when you're really mad at your spouse, they really want that table. And what happens, you get into mediation and nobody wants to budge. So now when you get threatened by the judge, the cost of trial, how much longer this is going to take, then they'll take it to another, what they call intensive settlement conference. So nothing gets settled at the mediation, 0, first 2 hours free. We walk out, everybody's mad. Then we do intensive settlement conferences.
Okay, so that's different. You have a different process, it sounds like, in your state then. Okay.
Right.
And so what is that about? What is that?
Okay. So mediation is just what you think it is. It's a
Yeah.
mediator that has been practicing for some odd years. He tries to somewhat predict what the judge in your jurisdiction may do based on all the facts that you gave you. You know, you write them your position statement. Here's the income. Here's this. This is what they're fighting for.
Okay, so you guys are doing it differently in your state then, because it's very different. That's very different. We're not allowed to do like what part of what you just mentioned, like the whole predicting with the judge. Well, no. We're not allowed to do any of that. So that's, you guys have a different process. Okay.
Right. Well, it gives the parties an idea of where they stand. So your position may be unreasonable if I know that the judge is not going to give you that. So it's good for them to hear. You can keep fighting for that, but the likelihood of success on what you want is not going to happen.
Okay.
Towards the middle, but they never make it. So then what happens is we do an intensive settlement conference, and that's with a judge.
Oh, really?
Yes. And now the judge, it's not the judge of your case, although it could be, but it's not the judge for your case. And then the judge will tell you, look, I've got the facts. I've got your income. I know what your assets are. This is what I want to do. And this is what I think a judge in this jurisdiction is going to do. And the parties sit there, and sometimes now you start to say, okay, so we'll settle on the alimony part, but we're still fighting over custody. So we get more done at the intensive settlement conference because I think parties have more respect for a judge. I just think that's what it is. And they're scared that, wow, if he's a judge, then he's probably right on what's going to happen. And usually we end up going to trial on the custody issues because both parents want custody of the child. And that usually goes on to court, to trial.
So are these retired judges that are going into the intensive conference in your state, or are they active judges?
They're active.
How do they have time for that?
They're dedicated. So normally, so judges are assigned a case when you first file for the complaint.
Okay.
That judge can be that intensive settlement conference mediator if both parties waive it, because that judge is also going to settle your case. So you have to sign that you're waiving that conflict. I typically love when the judge of the case is the mediator. Puts my client in the position, look, this is the guy that's going to try your case. If he says this is what he's looking at, this is what he might do, you better bank on that's what he's going to do. So do we really want to litigate this, knowing that you're not going to win on that because he's made it clear that that's his position? Versus another judge, and you might be like, well, our judge might do something different. So when it gets down to this, you've been in the case almost 18 months to 2 years, Vanessa.
Okay.
So you really want your parties to stop spending the money. You want to stop the bleeding. You want to get them to settle. Listen to what this judge is going to say and what issues can we resolve now. And typically at the intensive settlement conference, everything gets resolved except for custody.
Okay. So do any of your cases go into appeals?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. All right. I was just curious because in Florida there's a lawyer that writes. Everyone has their own idea of what a good time is, right? And this person writes basically a book every year. This person updates, this lawyer, on all the cases that went to I think appeals, and I think some other cases too. And it's some interesting reading. I've been reading a little bit over it, and so I'm just always kind of curious about that. Kind of what cases go into appeals and what that looks like. I know it's not that many. I mean, I know in our state, in Florida, that it's most of them aren't going into trial and most aren't going into appeals, because that's just a long, expensive road for most people.
Yes, it is.
So I mean, that's most cases, really, not just family law.
Right.
Anyways, so out of curiosity, in 50 years, where do you see divorce and marriage being, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, in 50 years, I would say that the divorce rate is going to substantially decline. Because I believe that millennials are smart enough to wait until they're older to get married and have a family. They're not making the dumb, oh, I'm in love. And, it used to be a time that young people spent so much time planning their wedding and not planning the marriage.
So many people.
How many kids do we want? Do you expect me to stop working when I have a baby? I expect you to stop working when I have a baby? Are we going to be able to get a nanny? Are we going to have a babysitter? These are things that are not discussed. And then when they get married, because they're so young, they run into, well, I didn't know you wanted 3 kids. I only want 1 child. I didn't know that you wanted to live in the city. I wanted to live in the suburbs. So these conversations about marriage, young people don't do. So I think in 50 years, the divorce rate is going to be very, very low. I think that people are going to start getting married later. I also think that people are going to start having more prenups because millennials are becoming super successful at an early age. And I think that litigation is going to go down because there's going to be instruments in place that protect everybody's assets prior to the divorce, because people are starting to realize now getting a divorce is like a dissolution of a corporation. In fact, that is exactly what it is. You know, now it was a company, and now we got to split the assets. And once you understand that, you will start protecting your assets before you get married. People are going to get married later, and they're going to have stuff they need to protect. Remember, your prenup is about what you have. You're protecting your assets. So when you get married older, you've now accumulated some assets. You're not 23. You know, you might, these millennials, they're buying homes, they're investing, they're doing the cryptocurrency. They want to protect their assets. So I believe that there's going to be more prenups. There's going to be less divorce rate. People are going to be getting married later, and they're going to take this marriage thing seriously.
So is there going to be a part 2, do you think, of your participation on the show? Like, I know it's wrapped up at this point, but do you know, a lot of these shows will have spinoffs that you didn't see coming. Do you foresee any spinoffs of that last show? Have you been contacted, or is there anything you can share about that?
I've not heard of any spinoffs. They are considering a season 2 with some of the cast, not all of the cast. But honestly, I don't know whether I would even be part of the cast. So I'm not really sure, but I will tell you, Vanessa, I have some other things in the works. So there will be another show. It might not be related to Addicted to Marriage, but there is something in the works.
Okay, I'm very curious about that. Well, you'll have to let me know so I can check it out. Yeah, I wish they would have spent more time focusing on your professional life and what that looked like, because I would have liked to have seen a good 50 to 75% more spent on that time-wise, because I'm very curious. I would be very curious to have seen that on the show, like day in the life of, family law lawyer Kecia Clarke, or of your concierge service of, you know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you,
that would be so cool.
I know. And you know what, Vanessa? We filmed those things.
But you did?
We did. We filmed me a day in the life of Kecia Clarke at my law practice, working on my company, but it didn't make it. It got cut.
Oh, that's so disappointing. I would have really liked to have seen that. That would have been great.
Yeah.
And that would have been amazing. That would have been great. Okay. So last question. What do you want your legacy to be? Because you have a tremendous body of work, professionally speaking, over your life, and you've lived quite the life. It's quite the story to tell. And now you're doing reality TV, which is just a whole nother dimension.
It is. My legacy, Vanessa, honestly, my legacy, I want women across the globe to know that I have given them value by my teaching through the tools and strategies of just leveling up their life after a triggering event like a divorce, death of a loved one. I really aim to help those women, and that is my genius zone. I think I do it very well. I've got hundreds of thousands of testimonials, and my legacy should be that I was here for women when they were at their worst point in their life.
Okay. Well, that seems like a very worthwhile legacy. I've been thinking a lot about that because people don't talk much about that. The big picture of kind of their life. I feel like people focus too much kind of on the petty stuff, right. And it changes things when you kind of look at what's the big picture here, or do you even have one? Clearly you have one, but I think you're a fascinating person. I'm really glad that you were on this show. You were very worthy of being featured, and I hope that we get to see you more on global television, because that's what these platforms really are. It's not just across America. I mean, you can access this in any country. So I hope to see more of you. So thank you for being on, Kecia. For anyone who's interested in her concierge services, feels like that might be a good fit for them, or maybe in the state. Are you practicing law exclusively in the state of New Jersey? Is that right?
I am barred in New York and New Jersey, but right now I'm exclusively in New Jersey, but I am barred in New York and New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey then. If you're in New Jersey, you need family law help, then she may or may not be able to help you. We'll see. So anyways,
my concierge services is for anybody in the country, for any woman, anywhere. Absolutely.
KeciaClarke.com, KeciaClarke.com, KeciaClarke.com. So check it out if you're in need of her services. Thank you for being on, Kecia.
Thank you for having me, Vanessa. It was